My name is John Graham, and today I have brought in my father's aviator goggles and his logbook, and I've also brought in a photograph of my father taken when he initially joined the RCAF, I believe in 1939.
Canada's Air Force service history began as part of England's Royal Flying Corps during the First World War. Established in 1920, the Canadian Air Force was renamed the Royal Canadian Air Force by royal decree from King George V in 1924. After being plagued with poor enlistment numbers, the RCAF regrouped in 1939. They deployed a total of 250,000 service members during the Second World War, and, as the fourth largest Allied Air Force, accounted for 1/3 of Britain's perilous Bomber Command aircrew. With a casualty rate of 44%, it was widely understood that no matter where you were in the world, Bomber Command was always the most dangerous place to be. The constant threat claimed 17,101 lives, but the legacy of Royal Canadian Air Force aircrews was cemented by the Allied victory they helped achieve.
I'd like to welcome John to the set today. This is an interesting collection of items and relates to your father's RCAF wartime career.
That's right, yeah. So these are my dad's goggles and his air gunner badge, and also his logbook.
And we also have actually the original box that the goggles came in, and we've got a picture of your father there, John. And there's a cleaning kit inside there as well for your keeping care of your goggles, and it was all part of the equipment. It's very rare to see the actual box of the actual came in that, and also the condition of these goggles is a highlight to the collection.
He joined the RCAF when he was about 17 or perhaps 18, and flew with number 6 Group RCAF in England as a air gunner.
We've got his air gunner badge, which will denote that he was titled, which you see AG on it, would mean that he flew air gunner operations in a power-operated turret. In this case, he flew on mainly Halifax bombers. And we have the RCAF cap badge, and we also have his logbook. With an air gunner, it's a little different than a pilot's logbook. It relates still to the same aircraft. It relates to aircraft he flew on and what particular time was on it, what the mission did. That's all included in here as well. And it's an interesting chronology of the dates and the time that we see throughout the course of operations. And in this case, this is mainly training. Training to become an air gunner in a RAF or RCF bomber. In his particular case, he flew in Halifax bombers. The mid-upper turret was a central part of the aircraft. He would have had command of 4 Browning 303 machine guns, and he would be responsible to protect that bomber on its roughly 4-hour mission across Europe. And he was part of that crew, and that crew was trained to be a unit. And you can look at his logbook, it shows a lot of training with the various heavy conversion units, and that was where they crewed up the crews to make them a fighting unit so they could all operate. So when the 7 crew members went across Europe in their bombers, they knew exactly what they had to do and what was expected of them. So your father, John, he had a full war. I mean, there's no question about it. Even though he didn't operationally do missions to some degree, it was essentially a training operation. But he was actually in Gander at one point, which at that point was part of the British Empire. It wasn't part of Canada. And Gander was a frontline airbase at that point, fighting the Atlantic War. Aircraft were starting to be moved through to Europe. It was actually the crossroads at that point, a significant airbase at that point.
So you're right, it was training, but I asked as a small boy, I said, did you ever see an enemy aircraft? And he said yes. He said there was a twin-engined aircraft, and it was floating around at the edge. And I was like, did you shoot at them? Being a sort of a wide-eyed, thinking that you're going to wait till you see the whites of their eyes and then shoot at them. And my dad said, oh no, we did shoot at him. And I was like, did you hit him? My dad was like, oh no, he was miles out of range. And I was like, well, why would you shoot at him? And Dad said, to let him know that we were awake.
John's father's career was interesting because it was pretty varied, but it encompassed most of the war. He really had 2 separate wars. He had a war in Canada, then was trained and then was sent to England to work and operate within RCF 6 Group. And he did a lot of training, and I think that's probably what enabled him to survive. 55,000 crewmen were lost.
He's a lucky man, I think. Because if he had been aircrew in 1939 and become a gunner, I don't think he would have survived. I did learn some new things about the artifacts, and perhaps about the use, like my father's career and his activity as an air gunner, and how the air gunners would coordinate in defending the aircraft. That was very useful and new. I'm hoping to do some more research. It would be nice to find out some more. And for the artifacts, I guess we're going to have to think about perhaps donating them, to a museum. Maybe yours. We'll see.
Well, we'd certainly appreciate a great collection like this at some point down the road, but obviously it's your collection to do what you want with it, and it tells the story of the Graham family, and again, that's something that you don't see every day, and I guess that's the treasure you get to give on to your daughter and to your family and your son, to actually part of what they've been part of.
I think it was wonderful to have the opportunity to talk about my dad's stuff, and I really enjoyed being here and talking about my dad and about his career and the things he did in the war.